Namaste, Dandavad Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're also paying our humble Dandavad Pranam to Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada for providing us this wonderful commentary and translation of Bhagavatam. And following the guidance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is Srila Prabhupada and Srila Sridhara Maharaja's guru, following his guidance, we are praying to Srimati Radharani. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said that unless we can discover Srimati Radharani within the 18,000 verses of Bhagavatam, then our study has been for waste. So keeping this in mind, we are praying to Srimati Radharani. Yadi seva vanchitasya ma yasya kripaya vayam labema sarvam prapnuma prayojanam damni Shri Bhagavat Pade Krishna sambandhi sarvam cha yadi na jani mahe tutam ashtadashasu sahasreshu shlokanam Bhagavat oktishu radharanim na vindamatada nishpalam Bhagavat adhyayanam Radhi Kaya Kripam Vina Vyartasyat Sarva Parishrama. If we are cheated out of serving that personality whose mercy awards us everything we need, including residence in the Lord's holy Dham, and all things connected to Krishna, and if we cannot understand or discover Radharani within the 18,000 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, then our study of Srimad Bhagavatam has been pointless. Without the mercy of Srimati Radharani, all of our efforts are in vain. So we are continuing our reading from Canto 5, the creative impetus, chapter 1, the activities of Maharaj Priyavrata, text 33. Sharodekshu Rashodha Shuruda Gritoda Chiroda Dadi Mandado Shudhoda Shapta Jaladaya Sapta Dvipa Parika Ivabhyantara Dvipa Samana Ekaikasyena Yatan Upurvam Saptasvapi Bahir Dvipesha Pratak Parita Upakalpitasteshu Jambhadishu Barhismati Patir Anuvratan Atmajan Agni Dredhamajiva Yagya Bahu Hiranyareto Gritta Prishta Medhatiti Vitihotra Samgyanyata Sankhenaikai Kasmin Ekam Vibhati Patim Vidadhe. The seven oceans respectively contain salt water, sugarcane juice, liquor, clarified butter, milk, emulsified yogurt, and sweet drinking water. All the islands are completely surrounded by these oceans, and each ocean is equal in breadth to the island it surrounds. Maharaj Priyavrata, the husband of Queen Barhismati, gave sovereignty over these islands to his respective sons, namely Agnidra, Idmajiva, Yagyabahu, Hiranyareta, Prishti, Medhatiti, and thus they all became kings by the order of their father. Purport. It is to be understood that all the dvips, or islands, are surrounded by different types of ocean, and it is said herein that the breadth of each ocean is the same as that of the islands it surrounds. The length of the oceans, however, cannot equal the length of the islands. According to the Viraragava Acharya, according to Viraragava Acharya, the breadth of the first island is 100,000 yojanas. 1 yojana equals 8 miles, and therefore the breadth of the first island is calculated to be 800,000 miles. The water surrounding it must have the same breadth, but its length must be different. Text 34. Duhitaram Charojasvatim Namo Sanase Prayachad Yasyamasid Devayani Namakavya Sutta. King Priyavrata then gave his daughter, Urjasvati, in marriage to Sukracharya, who begot in her a daughter named Devayani. Text 35. Naivam vidha purusha kara uru kramasya samtad angri rajasa chitasad gunanam chitram viduram vigata sakrid adhadita yanama deyam adunasa jahati bandam. My dear king, a devotee who has taken shelter of the dust from the lotus feet of the Lord can transcend the influence of the six material waves, namely hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, old age, and death. And he can conquer the mind and five senses. However, this is not very wonderful for a pure devotee of the Lord, because even a person beyond the jurisdiction of the four castes, in other words, an untouchable, is immediately relieved of bondage to material existence if he utters the holy name of the Lord even once. Purport. Shukadev Goswami was speaking to Maharaj Parikshit about the activities of King Priyavrata, and since the king might have had doubts about these wonderful, uncommon activities, Shukadev Goswami reassured him. My dear king, he said, don't be doubtful about the wonderful activities of Priyavrata. For a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything is possible because the Lord is also known as Urukrama. Urukrama is a name for Lord Vamanadev, who performed the wonderful act of occupying the three worlds with three footsteps. Lord Vamanadev requested 3 paces of land for Maharaj Bali, and when Maharaj Bali agreed to grant them, the Lord immediately covered the entire world with 2 footsteps. And for his third step, he placed his foot upon Maharaj Bali's head. Sri Jayadev Goswami says, Chalayasi, have you seen this? Chalayasi Vikramane Palim Adbhutavamana Adadnaka Nira Janita Jana Pavana Keshavadrita Vamana Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Yeah. All glories to Lord Keshava, who assumed the form of a dwarf. O Lord of the universe, away, who take away everything inauspicious for the devotees. A wonderful Vamanadev, you tricked the great demon Bali Maharaj by your steps. The water that touched the nails of your lotus feet when you pierced through the coverings of the universe purifies all living entities in the form of the river Ganges. Since the Supreme Lord is all-powerful, he can do things that seem wonderful for a common man. Similarly, a devotee who has taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord can also do wonderful things unimaginable to common man by the grace of the dust of those lotus feet. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore teaches us to take shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame babam buddho kripaya tava pada pankaja Stita Dhuli Sadrusham Vinchantaya. O son of Nanda Maharaj, I am your eternal servant, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms of your lotus feet. Lord Chaitanya teaches us to come in touch with the dust of the Lord's lotus feet, for then there will undoubtedly be all success. Because of the material body, every living entity in material existence is always disturbed by sadguna, 6 waves: hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, invalidity, and death. Furthermore, another sadguna are the mind and 5 sense organs. Not to speak of a sanctified devotee, even a chandala, an outcast who is untouchable, is immediately freed from material bondage if he utters the holy name of the Lord even once. Sometimes caste brahmanas argue that unless one changes his body, he cannot be accepted as a brahmana. For since the present body is obtained as a result of past actions, one who has in the past acted as a brahmana takes birth in a brahmana family. Therefore, they contend, without such a brahminical body, one cannot be accepted as a brahmana. Here it is said, however, that even Vidura Vigata, a Chandala, a 5th class untouchable, is freed if he utters the holy name even once. Being freed means that he immediately changes his body. Sanatana Goswami confirms this. Yata kanchantam, yata kanchana tam yati, kamshyam rasa vidhanata, tata diksha vidhanena, vijatvam jayate nunam. When a person, even though a Chandala, is initiated by a pure devotee into chanting the holy name of the Lord, his body changes as he follows the instructions of the spiritual master. Although one cannot see how his body has changed, we must accept on the grounds of the authoritative statements of the Shastras that he changes his body. This is to be understood without arguments. This verse clearly says, Sajahati Bandham. He gives up his material bondage. The body is a symbolic representation of material bondage according to one's karma. Although sometimes we cannot see the gross body changing, chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord immediately changes the subtle body, and because the subtle body changes, the living entity is immediately freed from the material bondage. After all, changes of the gross body are conducted by the subtle body. After the destruction of the gross body, the subtle body takes the living entity from his present gross body to another. In the subtle body, the mind is predominant, and therefore, if one's mind is always absorbed in remembering the activities or the lotus feet of the Lord, he is to be understood as having already changed his present body and become purified. Therefore, it is irrefutable that a Chandala or any fallen, low-born person can become a Brahmana simply by the method of bona fide initiation. Text 36. Sa evam aparimita bala parakrama ikadatu devarshi sharananu shayananu patita guna visharga samsargain anirvritam ivatmanam manyamana atma nirveda idham maha. While enjoying his material opulences with full strength and influence, Maharaj Priyavrata once began to consider that although he had fully surrendered to the great Saint Narada and was actually on the path of Krishna consciousness, he had somehow become again entangled in material activities. Thus his mind now became restless and he began to speak in a spirit of renunciation. Purport. In Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.17 it is said, Tyaktva dharmam charnam bhujam hare rajan apro patet tato yadi yatvakva vabhadram abud amusyakim kovarta tu bhajatam sadharmata. One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage, yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee fully engaged in occupational duties does not gain anything. If one somehow or other comes to the shelter If a great Vaishnava takes the Krishna consciousness because of sentiment or realization, but in course of time falls down because of immature understanding, he is not actually fallen, for having engaged in Krishna consciousness is a permanent asset. If one falls down, therefore, his progress might be checked for a certain time, but it will again become manifest at an opportune moment. Although Priyavrata Maharaj was serving according to the instructions of Narada Muni meant for going back home, back to Godhead, he returned to material affairs at the request of his father. In due course of time, however, his consciousness for serving Krishna reawakened by the grace of his spiritual master Narada. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 6.41, Suchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Brishato Vijayate. One who falls down from the process of bhakti yoga is again offered the opulence of the demigods, and after enjoying such material opulence, he is given the chance to take birth in a noble family of a pure Brahmana or in a rich family, to be given the chance to revive his Krishna consciousness. This actually happened in the life of Priyavrata. He is the most glorious example of this truth. In due course of time, he no longer wanted to enjoy his material opulences and his wife, kingdom, and sons. Instead, he wanted to renounce them all. Therefore, after having described the material opulences of Maharaj Priyavrata, Shukadeva Goswami in this verse describes his tendency for renunciation. The words Devarshi Charananu Shayana indicate that Maharaj Priyavrata, having fully surrendered to the great sage Devarshi Narada, was strictly following all the devotional process and regulative principles under his direction. In regard to his strictly following the regulative principles, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Dandavat pranamas tan anupatita, by immediately offering obeisances, dandavat, unto the spiritual master, and by strictly following his directions, the student becomes advanced. Maharaj Priyavrata was doing all these things regularly. As long as one is in the material world, he has to be under the influence of the modes of material nature, guna visharga. It is not that Maharaj Priyavrata was freed from material influence because he possessed all material opulences. In this material world, both the poor man and the very rich man are under the material influences, for both wealth and poverty are creations of the modes of material nature. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 3.27, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha. According to the modes of material nature we acquire, the material nature gives us facility for material enjoyment. And thus ends our reading for today. We'll continue from text 37 on Friday. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, Srila Acharya Dev Ki Jai. Jai Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the worldwide devotees, Sama Bhaktivedanta Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadraju Ki Jai, Ganga Mayi Yamuna Mayi Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Giri Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai, Shyam Kund Radha Kund Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai, Scientific Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai, Princeton Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Hari 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 Bol, Uma Devi Dasi Ki Jai, Hare Krishna.
जय गुरुदेव। श्रीपाद कृष्ण केशव प्रभु जी की जय।
Jai Gurudev.
धन्यवाद।
Dhanavad Didi. Hari Bol.